We are on for Bitcoin Liberty Live, episode 45.
46, brother.
40, no, it is 46. We're on
Yeah.
46.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
What's the news?
Are you
I
kidding?
know,
How much
what was
news?
it?
Oh my God.
Friday,
Yeah.
executive order.
Yeah. They
Um,
picked price.
yeah,
I'm
it's like,
absolutely loving that.
it's funny how news like that oftentimes, I mean, I don't think a lot of people could have predicted or known what was coming, but as it arrived, it was a surprise in a way because I saw the whole crypto consortium going down the shitcoin path with access to Trump and
Yeah.
with David Sachs and all that. And I was pretty cynical about all of it. And then to have the executive order, another one come out about specifically Bitcoin and that, yes, they can accumulate crypto, but they can sell that to buy a Bitcoin. I was like, huh, that's actually what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So it's validating and I'm happy to hear it. They're not like it's like we're not going to be spending tax dollars or buying it, but we will hold what we have and we can convert other stuff to it. And if it's like not going to cause an expense, there's various ways where you could acquire Bitcoin without spending new money.
Right.
So, okay, there's a lot of ways you could do that. Sounds like good news to me.
Yeah.
Um, it's not like some of Lummis's talk about we're gonna buy 100,000 Bitcoin, like with what money, sell our gold or reprice gold or whatever.
Right.
That doesn't sound like it's really on in the cards, but hey, it's something.
Yeah. Well, all this stuff, you kind of just go, well, who knows where this is all headed? Um, and I don't know. I mean, what do you think about it all? Like, an executive order is, limited to this administration. The next administration can just dump it, right? Um,
Well, if they don't time lock it or something, like,
yeah.
I mean, so what? Theoretically, here's one thing: is like say something really weird. I don't think it can necessarily happen in this point of history, but we'll see. Years, 3, 4 years from now, a lot could change. But a new administration gets elected. Trump has months, or David Sachs or whoever, they have months at that point to time lock the Bitcoin in code if they wanted,
Yeah.
and hold it. And like basically, a new administration comes down, they can't move it. It's
Right.
like a multi sig where one of the keys is time locked. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Could do. I don't know. I mean, it really takes an act of Congress to get this stuff cemented into law, and to make it permanent, or at least semi-permanent, or as permanent as you can get with a government agency or government apparatus. But yeah, I mean, it would be great to. I keep waiting for the Dems to capitulate and stop being lunatics, but I can't. It really boggles my mind, man. Like, I just posted a thing on Twitter this morning. Like, there's right now the big uproar that they're trying to push, the propaganda narrative they're trying to push is Elon Musk is getting access to your private data, right? That's one of the many things, one of the many prongs they're trying to levy as an attack. And I think they just continually marginalize and disenfranchise people that are on the fence about whether or not they're sort of pro what Trump is doing or anti. And everything they do is seems like it's calculated to shoot themselves in the foot at so they can appease their lunatic base. And
Mhm.
I just I keep waiting for more and more of them to kind of come around and go, oh, I'm on the wrong side of all of this. Like, I'm gonna get wrecked. And I think the midterms, if the Republicans can get their messaging sorted out, and if they can, get it a little bit more like bottom feeder friendly, then they might swing a bunch of people in the midterms, and if they do, and like if the Dems can keep shooting themselves in the foot with their messaging, and then Doge can deliver a bunch of like legit results, like irrefutable kind of results, then if you see that red wave, I think that'll be pretty much the end of the Dem party at this point, or at least the way it's configured right now.
Yeah, I feel like the Democratic deep state, they're steadily going to clinch there being just a footnote in history at this point. I mean, they have sort of a couple options, and one is to hold on to what they think still works. Good morning, Johnny.
What's up, Johnny?
Where they hold on to the ideology stuff, which is the racism, the identity politics, the pro-war stuff, I guess, for endless money growing on trees issues,
Yeah,
and it's just a loser. And I think some of that base that has common sense over time, they're going to say, you know what, I'm not seeing a big coup or a steal here, and some things are making more and more sense or getting better. Not that there aren't going to be economic challenges going on here, but there's going to be some swing over to be like, okay, whatever the DNC is, I'm not that anymore. Like,
right,
am I independent? Do I switch sides? I think there's going to be a drift. Those who remain, who are dug in and hardcore and are like, nope, nope, racism, more and more of their constituents are going to be putting pressure on, like, hey, we're tired of this. Like, the ship
right.
has sailed on and let's get real. And I just don't see how they keep getting elected. So one path is they hold on and they just lose votes and they lose members. Another is that they capitulate and they give in a little, which also is kind of like conceding the fact, like, yeah, our whole platform's messed up, but what's our new message? They're scrambling to understand a message that is relevant. They don't have one that I see.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, like the formation of the Democrat Party, all they did was like the Socialist Party back in the 20s was getting a lot of traction in the United States. And the Dems were losing out to them because they weren't, they were still, at least in most forms and functions, were still constitutionally bound, right? Like they still had constitutional ideas. And the socialists were just kicking the crap out of them. But socialism was a big thing back in, in the 20s, right? And as that sort of morphed, the Democrat Party just sort of came and just said, "Oh, we'll just take your platform." So they just took all of their talking points and then just made it Dem talking points, and they squashed the socialist movement and just adopted it as their own. And then we got FDR and all that sort of lunacy that followed that. But nowadays, like the problem is they're so overrun with Marxist ideologues that I don't think they have anywhere to go. And the whole Marxist playbook has always been, you know, identity politics and destroy institutions, right? I mean that their whole basis is anti-humanity, anti-human being, and pro-authority for the minority.
yeah,
And it, the thing is there's such a strong, like such a powerful streak of independent thinking in the United States. I mean, it's sort of like baked into our existence. The entire founding of the country is sort of rooted in those ideas. And
yeah.
I think it's
Even on the liberal side, there's people that are just sort of anti-authoritarian, and they've misframed it. It's just sort of the system, but even that's what tears them up a little bit too, is because anything establishment on the liberal side gets torn up too. So
right.
even like hardcore liberals or even Marxists don't like establishment stuff.
Well, the
So
Marxists love it. I mean, they absolutely love it. But the left side of the party,
the
the
party,
traditional left side of the party, kind of
I'm thinking of
isn't
like the
for this.
college kids. Yeah,
Well, they're just lunatics. I mean, but
they
all college kids
yeah,
are always lunatics. Like
yeah,
the natural drift for every human being is to start off super liberal and then end up super conservative. Like that's just kind of the way it
right.
goes.
You have that phase.
Yeah, but
Um,
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see kind of how this all plays out. But the tweet I posted that I started talking about earlier was they're talking about Doge and invading your privacy and yada yada yada. But there was a guy that this totally got memory hold, and it's sort of remarkable that no one on the right talks about this. And Jim Jordan has been one of the guys that's been sort of doggedly going after this, but it doesn't really get brought up a lot. This guy Chris Littlejohn, he was a contractor for Booz Allen Hamilton. He went and stole 405,000 um, tax documents from the IRS and then released it to ProPublica, right?
I heard about that.
Yeah, and that guy, he got charged with one count of misuse of information. That's it. He released publicly the private information of 400,000 United States citizen taxpayers to a media organization, and he got basically a slap on the wrist. The judge in the case was like, I can't believe this is all you're getting charged with. This is insane. It's like one of the biggest data breaches in IRS history, right?
Hmm.
And if you go look at the Washington Post or any of these liberal, media outlets at the time, this guy's a martyr. He's a hero. We should,
IRS leak was a service to America.
yeah, this IRS leak was a service to America because they were going after billionaires or whatever. They were going after
Hmm.
Trump. And the guy even said, well, he viewed Trump as a threat to democracy. And you go, well, I wonder where he got that idea from. But this guy went and sought this position out to compromise US taxpayer information. And the left was like, yay, this guy's great. Those vulnerabilities that allowed that to happen still exist to this day. There are those, like as the Doge team has pointed out, there's like researchers and grad students have access to all taxpayer information. There are 900 plus IRS employees that have unfettered access to all IRS tax information on every single American. And you go, well, why is it okay for those guys to have access? I mean, you can maybe make a case for the IRS people to have it, but given the fact that you've already had a massive breach of data, maybe you should clamp down on that a little bit. But no one, those guys are heroes if they release sensitive information on people they don't like. But that's a straight up Stasi playbook. I mean, it's just the amount of lunacy that is carrying on in the world right now is quite astonishing to me.
Yeah. I I just think it's shifted. I think the Trump's talk to Congress was sort of indicative of the energy and the feeling behind, yeah, everything. Even if you don't agree with things about Trump or you don't like Trump, you have to admit the Democrats looked like total losers, despite everything they're squirming to try to maintain relevancy about. It's all loser stuff, and so um, now with the executive order, it's confirming of solid directional stuff. Reality, ultimately, I don't know. I mean, I there's something that kind of gets to me about, well, we're gonna keep Bitcoin that we confiscate, and so the incentives there are like, hey, IRS, U.S. Marshals, whoever, FBI, as you confiscate Bitcoin, it adds to our treasury, and it's weird incentives there. But hey, if through various reasons the country has accumulated some, I'm like, yeah, why not hold it? Why not keep it? Sounds great.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that per se, but even Matt Odell kind of really cynical about everything about it,
yeah,
and he had to concede like, well, at worst, it's kind of a neutral, decent thing to have happened. But it's hard to not say this is quite validating. I mean, at least it's not another shitcoin executive order. So
right. Well, the thing I told the Bitcoin libertarian last night on the podcast was, the regardless of U.S. buying Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin, all that stuff, I think is really second order to the optics of Bitcoin now. Because it's one thing to have Wall Street buying it up, and you still have people like, like if you go down the street and just look at anybody and go, "Hey, what do you think of Bitcoin?" Oh, it's a scam. It's a this. It's a, like they just don't get it yet, still, right?
yeah,
But the thing is to argue against that in the past was took some time, right? I mean, in order to orange pill somebody and say, well, you got to go through the whole rigmarole of why Bitcoin's different, yada 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 yada. Today, you can go right. So you think it's a beanie baby? The U.S. federal government holds it as a strategic reserve right next to oil and gold. What are you talking about? Like,
yeah,
there's no plausible argument you can make now that says Bitcoin is irrelevant. Bitcoin is Beanie Baby, Bitcoin is a any sort of disparaging term you can come to it. And the beauty of it is most of the people that you'd want to be orange pilling anyway, you know, you can now mock them for being so, the mockery train has now reversed directions. And if people go, "Oh, it's a Beanie Baby," and I go, "You're a moron, dude. Like, how can you even
Yeah.
possibly say that? You are living under a rock if you still think that, right?" And
Yeah.
I go, "It's part of the U.S. Strategic Reserve stockpile, including gold, oil, cheese,
Jeez.
medicine. I mean, like, you have to be deliberately obtuse to go and try and mock this property now. So
Yeah. Even
I think that alone is a big deal for that EO.
yeah, Peter Schiff had to concede something there where it's funny. I had to retweet it. I'm just like, go Schiff, because instead of just being anti-toxic, no, 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 he's like kind of like, I get it, and at least it's not shitcoin.
Yeah.
That's something. I
Well,
so
yeah, crazy, right?
just when the executive order came out, for some people trying to just stuck in denial land, it's like, hey, uh, the U.S. So superficially, perhaps, but yes, the U.S. has a Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Right.
That should mean something to people who are really trying to ignore it or avoid it or say it's Beanie Babies. It's like, well, that's got to mean something to you.
You'd hope, but I mean, these people are so entrenched in their thinking. It boggles my mind. Like it's really hard to sit there and look at people and take people seriously now when they're still like Rachel Maddow. Oh, these are Beanie Babies and whatever. It's like, fuck, lady, you are just. I don't know what you're smoking, but share.
My thought is that the tool you have created, you know, like the title I created here, the U.S. Bitcoin Strategic Reserve keys could be on metal.
Yeah.
Should we? Do you want to show it?
Yeah. Well, you have it. I mean, I don't actually have any of the kits sitting around. Yeah. But there it is. There's the big magical product that's been waiting for months and months and months. Have you stamped out a seed phrase yet? Have you tried it?
No, I well, I've done it on yours before, but I just got this morning,
Yeah.
and so
Pretty
I
cool, huh?
I love it. It's beautiful. Well, okay. I got the hammer.
Yeah. The bitch and hammer. That's a 21E15 bitch and hammer right there.
2.1e to the 15. Bitch and hammer. Got
Yeah.
the dies. And these things are tiny. 1 millimeter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're tiny.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
And so when I've stamped these out before using your kit here, not the one I just got, but on prototypes, you get it on the washer, and quarter sized washer. And when I maybe it's my eyesight, but anyone just glancing at it, and you're
Yeah.
like,
So hard to
you
see,
see a
right?
washer, but you see some tiny mess on there, and unless you have a magnifying glass, you're like, what is that? And it's nothing. Or you paint it, you dip it in plastic, you sew it into a button, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a nothing. You use a nylon washer, like you'd mentioned before. You could use a nylon washer, go through any metal detector. It just could be on a necklace around your neck,
Yeah.
um, and
Well,
you
hey,
got
I
your
got a little
keys.
promo video. Maybe I can share the promo video. You want to play it?
Yeah.
It's only like 45 seconds. Let's see if it'll come up. Uh, can I? Oh, it's not on a tab. Maybe I could go to my Twitter and share it from there. Oh, I haven't put it on Twitter. God, I don't have any. I don't have this video. Oh, yes, I do.
Go to your website.
Oh, duh. I have a website.
21e15.com. You can order these.
Yeah,
I tested the process out. Now listen to these clicks. Tactile.
yeah, it's cool, right?
I
Well, here
love it.
I'll share the. Why is this not my Brave thing just went away? Oh, here. Oops, didn't want to do that.
So you put the table on the jig, you put your die in the slot, outer and inner slots, stamp, click, stamp,
Yeah.
degree by degree.
Well,
And
here
you can,
I'll play the video right now and see if I can get this to work.
Wouldn't it be cool if you could safely, securely, and permanently record your seed phrase on something the size of a quarter? Well, now you can. Introducing the MicroSeed by 21e15.com.
nicely done.
Thank
And I
you.
watched all your tutorial videos as well. You've got some good, as long as you want to, once you understand how it works, it's just drop dead simple. But there's little things to make sure you're doing it just right or you don't
Yeah.
forget something or whatever. But it's easy enough. Your tutorial videos step through everything very clearly, easy enough, and
Oh, thank
not
you.
to make
Yeah.
any mistakes.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to get this thing out there. I hope people can see the value in it. But like I was saying offline, there's a bunch of other little things. Like you're talking about ways to obscure it. I just ordered a couple of little molds for like a little skull keychain thing, and but I'm going to show people how you can hide this thing like in a mold. And yeah, thanks, Johnny.
Thanks,
It's
Johnny.
actually really cool. I mean, like I've got some videos in the pipeline right now kind of showing like the wildfires and North Carolina hurricane victims and stuff like that, and the Maui fires. And it's been like weeks and for some of these people months before they could get back to their house. And I go, well, hey man, it's one thing to have your seed phrase stamped on something and locked away in your safe, but what if you can't get back to your safe? And not your keys, not your Bitcoin doesn't mean much if you can't get your keys, right?
Yeah.
So, this is a way to do that and make sure that, there's downsides to my little solution as well. Like is you shrink something down to the size of a quarter, the likelihood of losing it kind of goes up. But the beauty of it is if you lose it, the likelihood of someone figuring out what it is, I think goes way down, and it'll more likely just get tossed.
Obscurity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The security through obscurity goes way up. And it doesn't even have to be metal. And so, as opposed to having like a seed plate or to, I've scratched on metal before, and after a while, you're just like, man, my hand. I mean, I can do this, but it looks scratchy, and it works.
Yeah,
Or you can stamp it, sure. This instead of having to line it up and see that you're there and be like, okay, stamp, and it's all woggled, what you get out of this is perfectly symmetrical circular set of 12 on the outside, 12 on the inside. And
yeah,
you can have your entire seed phrase or flip the coin over and do both sides. You got a
yeah,
little washer, it's got a hole on it. You can have it be your necklace every day. If I've been in those situations where my God, I had to keep a careful key around my neck because I couldn't sleep at night lest it got stolen by a troll. And I have worn a key around my neck at one point because just for my own personal security. And whenever that little trigger went in my mind is like, oh, is my safe still secure and intact? Oh, my house is burning down. How fire safe is my safe? Or can I get in there? Um,
yeah,
is it going to be checked or confiscated? Or, I mean, hell, is somebody going to back a truck up and chain yank my safe? Or just the craziest things, all of that short circuited and alleviated by the fact that no, I can feel my keys on my neck right now every day.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
that's an option. Or
Yeah,
you screw it in somewhere you like to have it, or you put it wherever you want, or you sew it into something. You put it in a medallion. There's so many options,
yeah,
and you just know you have them on a little thing. It'd be like I got my phone, I got my MicroSeed key. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks, Johnny. I think Well, one of the cool things about this, the way I've got it set up, is you don't have to put those words in order. Like you can come up with some sort of cipher that says, well, the first word of my seed phrase, I'm going to put an A before it, and then the 10th word of my seed phrase is going to have a X before it or something like that. And then you can sort of shake up because you're reading it, left to right, right. So you can sort of alter the order of it. So even if someone did find it, if they didn't know your cipher to say which is the first word, they would have to then try and figure out the order of 24 words, which in of itself is not easy to do. Um, and if you have it covered up, like I'm going to be releasing a couple of videos here in the next week that show like ways you can cover this with like Plastidip, or there's like this silicone mold shit they use for special effects. You can dip it in that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure it'll help make it float. And you can just, I mean, you can cover up the word, but the stuff peels right off. So you always have access to your words, but someone looking at it just can't pick it up and read it and figure out what it is. And, and to Fritz's point, like, you know, heaven forbid if you got to like get across a border somehow, or you want to take your seed phrase with you, you're trying to flee the country or something like that. Like some of these bigger options that you have out there for preserving your seed phrase in metal, I go, well, good luck getting that on a plane. I mean, maybe you will, but all it takes is that one snoopy little TSA person to come on and go, what's that? I need to look at that, please. And you certainly don't want to put that in your checked baggage, right? Because, whether it's
Who knows?
one in a million, if you're going to lose your bag, it's not going
Right.
to matter if your bag gets lost and your seed phrase is in it. So, um, but the ability to just toss that in the change jar at the X-ray machine, like no one's going to look at that and go, what is this, a weapon? Right. I mean, it's like it's the same size as a quarter. You go, yeah, I'm going to go take over the plane with this washer. And if you have it encased in like Plastidip, or some other plastic material or something like that, then what is
Yeah.
that? Good luck charm. Doesn't matter. So, and yeah, to your point, you can always put it somewhere inconspicuous. I mean, you could feasibly stamp out 10 of these things and then just go screw them around to every little thing. Like you can have one bolted to the back of your fridge, another one bolted to the bottom of your desk at your office, and another one, screwed into the bottom of your chair in your car or whatever. It's just there's unlimited ways to conceal this, hide it, take it upon your person. And as Fritz also pointed out, you can stamp this into nylon, so
Yep.
even if like Do Kwon got busted trying to smuggle a Trezor or something in his ass, but you could, if you knew you were going to prison for something, you could stamp this thing out in your little nylon washer, and you could put that in your prison pouch if you wanted to.
A lot easier.
And yeah, and it would 100% get through, and no one would even know you had it. Like it wouldn't show up on body scans, and it wouldn't show up on metal detection. And even if it did show up on a body scan, it would be so hard to determine what it is, especially in nylon. It would be like, I don't think they'd pick it up if you've never dealt with body scanners. They're not exactly bulletproof, and little small things
Sure.
like that can be really easily obscured. They go, what is that? Oh, I think it's just a turd. Like they don't know. So
I swallowed a Cheerio.
yeah, this guy
Um,
must have swallowed a Cheerio.
and you can buy a box of these. Just get yourself a box of washers. You don't have to worry about getting the right size plate, or dealing with like, well, oh, I need another little bit of steel, or what do I stamp it on?
Yeah,
Washers, man,
yeah,
cheap. Buy the box, and with the jig and your table and all this beautifully aluminum, orange, Bitcoin anodized.
yeah,
It's crisp. It's tight. With this deal, you can, hey, have a heyday, crank out as many as you want.
yeah,
Make 10 of them. You got a box of 30 washers. Well, you got all the supply you need for cheap and easy. You got
yeah,
the jig. You can just crank out another one whenever you want. A friend stops by and wants to stamp his keys, and you just say, "Hey, sit down at a table. You got a half hour. Chink,
yeah.
chink, chink. There you
Done.
go."
Yeah, I actually stamped out an entire 12-word seed phrase, like a mock seed phrase, on one of the training videos. And it took me, including all my jibber jabber in the middle of like explaining little steps here and there, it took 16 minutes on the counter. And I think it actually took about 12. Like the first word I stamped in there was abused, I think, or amused. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it was amused. And that took 48 seconds from the time I stamped the first letter to the time I was done. It was 48 seconds to get the whole letter in. Perfectly legible, including a number 1 to kick off the whole thing. But
Yeah.
like I said, you don't have to number these, right? Like you don't have to say this is number 1, this is number 2. You just have to remember which is the first word, which is the 6th word, whatever it is, and then you can align these any way you want. So someone trying to recreate your seed phrase, especially if it's all in just one big circle pattern, they go, well, "What's the first word?" No idea. You'll
Mm.
know because it's locked away in the old memory wallet up here. But anybody else looking at it wouldn't necessarily know what the starting word is or how to arrange it, so they got a 1 in 24 chance of getting the sequence right. But if you change that sequence up, if you put 4 words on this line and 4 words on this line and 4 words here and 4 words there, and you just remember 4 words instead of, the thing is, you don't have to, like, remembering 4 words is pretty easy, right? Remembering
Yeah.
24 is kind of a bitch. So but if you just have to remember 2, you go, this word starts this line, this word starts this line, and then you can arrange the words any way you want. It suddenly obscures even further the order of the words, and that is critical to opening your wallet. So, ton of
Yeah.
options. I just love the optionality. I mean, I built this thing because I wanted something like it. Like I was going, how could I get I don't want to carry around a plate. I don't want to, I mean, I think it's a great solution. I definitely recommend people go check out Stampseed and all those other options that you have. And that said, I also go, well, what if I wanted to get on a plane? Or what if I was having to flee the country? Or what if I had my house burned down and I couldn't get back into it because it's a disaster zone, and I'm going to get shot as a looter just for trying to get my seed phrase back? I don't
Hmm.
necessarily want it sitting there for 3 months. And what if they just condemn the entire area and they bulldoze everything before I can get back there? Then I'm going to be like that guy in England who's trying to dig around through the garbage dump looking for his hard drive.
Right.
But I know if I have one around my neck, I go, well, I left my house and then 3 hours later, a firestorm blew it over. Well, I still got my seed phrase. And if you got your seed
Right.
phrase, you got access to all kinds of stuff. Not to mention, you could break up your wallets in a bunch of different wallets. Like you could go, well, I'll keep like half a Bitcoin on here, and I'll keep 5 Bitcoin on here, and I'll keep 3 Bitcoin on here. Right. And that way,
Hmm.
if you get mugged, you go, hey, this is the only seed phrase I have access to. And you can give someone a half a Bitcoin to spare your life. And, there's so much optionality that can come with this. And it's so much easier to conceal and so much easier and so much more obscure than some of the existing solutions. So I think
Yeah.
I hope people appreciate what I've created here. And, it's exciting
Well,
to
yeah.
get it out there.
Yeah, you can stamp anything you want. You can have a motto or a phrase or whatever you want, and however you want to obscure your words in there or on the other side or whatever it is. It's like this is just a little. This is my AA sobriety motto, or this. Here's the Serenity Prayer, and then it's easily obscurable. And with these
Yeah.
little dies, um, I mean, you get them laid out and in a line, and yeah, when you're stamping along, it's just like they're alphabetical, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. It's quick, as quick or quicker than really trying to scratch or find the alignment and get it just right and have it look nice at all and have it on a big plate or have like a bolt with like 12 washers on there and all that. This is one
Yeah.
and done, small. It's something that I could like wear around my neck in a sense,
Oh yeah. 100%, and, yeah,
with
I
a
mean,
nice
there's
hammer.
a ton of, and you get a bitch and hammer.
The bitch and hammer is an option.
Yeah. And coming soon here, I just found titanium. So not like right now, these are stainless steel. Stainless steel has a melt point of about 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit, and average house fire is like I think 2,200 or 2,300, something like that. Um, but titanium has a melt point of like 3,000 Fahrenheit, and titanium is obviously much more expensive, but it's also lighter, and not like this thing's heavy. I mean, it's lighter than a quarter as it is, but you can actually have this thing done in titanium. I'm going to start including those with the kits. And yeah, so you get the fire resistance of titanium, you get the permanence of titanium, you get the light weight of titanium, and if you cover it in plastic dip or something else that floats, like silicone, rubber or whatever, you'll have something that you won't accidentally drop in the lake and go, uh oh, like it'll still be floating there waiting for you to pluck it back out of the water. But yeah, you can poke a little hole in it, wear it on a chain around your neck. You can sew it into your coat, anything you want. Yeah, I think it's a remarkable little piece of technology I've come up with. So
Well, I think so too. And just having known how it started and how you, before you rushed it out there, like, well, this is good enough, it'll work. Let's just start selling. You took the effort and the time to make sure that the tolerances and the tactile clicking and that the quality was solid, so that everything fit. It wasn't jiggling around, and that it just worked. So you it was time for quality,
oh yeah.
uh, well spent. So
Well, thank you, sir.
um,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've just been very impressed. I just
Oh,
and
thanks.
it's easy when you click. Every degree of a notch is clear and solid. Biggest thing in your process is when you're stamping. I got into that routine where it was like stamp, click, and then I spend a moment looking for like, oh, a number instead of a letter, and I got to remember, okay, I
Did I
stamp
click?
and then I click, and
Right.
then I remembered to click. And if you're ever kind of like, did I forget? I can just kind of take a look, lift it up for a second, check it, and find out.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
easy enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a little degree scale on there, so if you really were stuck and you couldn't quite make it out with your eyes, you can just count how many things you clicked. And it'll
Yeah,
tell you exactly where you are, and just count how many letters you got, and you know exactly where you're supposed to go next. So, yeah.
yeah.
But that tolerance right in that top plate there, that actually took a lot of doing. That tolerance is 0.05 millimeters. That's 2 thousandths of an inch. Most machine work, like standard tolerances for machined parts, like auto parts and things like that, is 5 thousandths of an inch.
Hmm.
So it's less than half a normal like auto part tolerance. I mean that requires a highly specialized machining process. That's called RAM EDM, and it's electro discharge machining. Like there's not even a piece of metal that cuts that hole out. It's electricity that cuts the hole out in the top. And then those bottom holes that hold the table, those are also machined to 2 thousandths of an inch tolerance. And yeah,
Yeah,
so it's been it took a lot of learning on my part to figure out some of these machining things because I've done machine work in the past on my own, but yeah, this was uh, was a whole different ball game. So
yeah.
yeah,
When you put the table in there, it does not wobble around whatsoever. It's tight, solid.
yeah, it's a fun little
I
thing.
love it.
Thank you, sir. So I'm glad you get an opportunity to have one now and have one of your own, and I'll probably get these out to the public starting Monday. I might start advertising it this weekend, but I want to get a couple more videos done to kind of help promote it. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's my big reveal that we've been holding out on, for weeks and weeks and
months.
weeks. My any day now announcement is today. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, last fall, the prototype was together, and the concept had been proven out well enough, but it was like not quite ready. Just, I
yeah,
mean, yeah, this works, but it's not this. And
yeah,
you took the extra time to produce the high quality that people are willing to, you know, um, get for something that'll last them forever.
I hope so.
And you get one, you can make all the keys you ever need in your whole life. And it's not just this isn't like you've mentioned. This isn't just a Bitcoin thing. You can put any passwords, geolocation stuff, bank account numbers, whatever you want on there.
Yeah, secret Swiss bank account number, your insurance information, like anything vital, all vital information. You have 240 characters total on that on a single washer. Um, but yeah, I mean, like you could literally put that in your last will and testament. Hey, if anything happens to me, go pull the fridge out, and you'll see a little thing covered in orange rubber. Pull that off, peel that rubber off, and everything you need to get to my secret Swiss bank account is there, or everything you need for the life insurance is there, or everything you need for passwords on my computer is there, whatever. I mean, and the thing is, you could say, well, if a robber's going to break in your house, they're going to, turn things upside down. What's the likelihood they're going to pull back your fridge and see if there's a washer screwed to the back that might have some valuable information on it? Like zero, right? They're not going to it's just not going to stand out. It's a washer. Anywhere a 1-inch washer can go, your seed phrase can go, your private information can go. and
Right.
you can cover it up with stuff. So yeah, it's going to be. I think it's a cool little solution. But enough
Yeah.
about showing my stuff.
I've just been. I'll be doing some hammering this evening. I think.
Yeah,
I love it. So anyway, yeah. So I hopefully we'll be promoting this here at conferences and I'll when you put videos and stuff online, I'll be sharing stuff and
oh, thank you.
I'll be showing it off.
Awesome.
I just
Thank
think it's innovative and new, and I think other companies that have done similar things have greatly contributed in all kinds of various ways. And this is just another option. I think it's an upgrade up. Uh, so depending on the direction you want to go with, what you want to invest in a tool to do that kind of a thing, this is the best one right now.
thank you.
The others are great, but this is the best one.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah. So I don't know, coming soon. But other than that, I mean, the Bitcoin world is kind of on fire with all sorts of other neat stuff right now, and everything
Yeah.
from the executive order to the to nation state adoption and Bhutan and all the crap that happened with IMF and El Salvador. And Samson Mao had some really great information about the El Salvador thing and kind of how that's playing out. Uh, and I was surprised at Bitcoin Twitter because it seems like there's a pretty strong divide between people that are saying that Bukele bent the knee and just the realities of running a country. It's like, and I mean, the debt service for El Salvador needed to be rolled like 100%. Like that country would have gone bankrupt if they couldn't roll that debt. And the IMF knew that, and they held him over a barrel and got him to capitulate a little bit on the Bitcoin thing. But that doesn't necessarily, I mean, it doesn't change what El Salvador did. It doesn't change what El Salvador's holding. It's just saying, well, you can't buy any more with public money, But they're mining it as far as I know. And did they ever set up that volcano mine? Do you know, Fritz?
They're doing it. I don't know to what extent. I don't know much about it really, but I mean, even Max Kaiser and Max and Stacy, Samson Mao, people on Twitter and stuff. People have been asking like, what is going on? There seems to be a collision here between IMF rules where they're claiming like we need your keys, you can't be mining all this stuff. Well, they're doing it all. They're still accumulating. However, that is, I can't tell how much of um, a front this is against the IMF, or if they're just if how much they can just ignore the rules and say sorry, not sorry, or if there's something else going on. I'm not even sure that Max and Stacy or Samson. I think we're all trying to figure it out. I don't
Well,
know.
I think Samson broke it down pretty well, and he said, "Look, people are saying he's just ignoring the IMF order by doing this.
Yeah.
It's not happening. It's just the IMF order doesn't kick in until like January or at a later date. Maybe it's June. I can't remember which. I think it's a J month, but either way, like they can still accumulate up to the point where that agreement kicks in, and then that's the catalyst that's going to stop them from accumulating Bitcoin any further. But
Hmm.
ultimately, the IMF is a loan sharking organization, and they've like if you look and see how those loans get distributed and who services those loans and things like that, that is all for the benefit of American finance. I mean, it's really sort of tragicomic watching people like defend the IMF as some sort of like benign, benevolent association in the world
Yeah.
when
Like
it's anything
USAID
but.
is aid.
Yeah, I mean it's a vampiric organization, and it's really sort of disgusting their kind of practices that they do. And El Salvador's been through that IMF ringer in the past, and they got yeah, you're absolutely right, Johnny. I didn't know. I don't know if it's running or not. I'd be interested to see, but
I follow them on Twitter, and they're always. I mean, they're running a business, and I don't know the details of the business, but I think they're mining.
yeah. Well, I know Bhutan has certainly been mining in the background for a long time now.
Oh
Like they've
yeah,
got a pretty big fat stack, and they're
they
using
have more than
hydro
El
to
Salvador.
do it. And but I think there's a lot of people that are quietly accumulating right now, and so it's kind of funny to watch people melting down over the price action and stuff like that. They go, "I can't believe it! We just announced an executive strategic reserve, and price is dumping." But someone else came along and said, "Well, they're just unwinding, these sort of carry trades and stuff that they're, I mean, it's." like as a maxi, I'm pretty price agnostic. If the price dropped tomorrow to 15 grand, I'd be like, whatever. I mean, I would just be stoked that I can go buy some more than I could have got today, kind of thing. But it wouldn't. I would have zero emotional response to a drop to 8K. So when I see people tripping out about the price, I go, well, regardless of what they're saying about price, I go, there's still some little sliver in your brain that's fiat associated, right? And you're
Right.
still kind of like, ooh, fiat, fiat, fiat. And I just find it for myself very relaxing to be kind of like, man, I just don't give a shit. As long as it doesn't go to zero, and as many Twitter users have pointed out, they've already got massive buys set for 1 penny, so it'll never go to zero and all this kind of nonsense. But
Yeah, Bitcoin is just consolidating into stronger hands steadily. And so, I think price aside, as the price bounces or drops and whatever, the Bitcoin holders Bitcoin is moving into the stronger holders. And so the baseline of diamond hands is growing. And I just think the base holdings of Bitcoin get stronger and stronger and stronger. And you don't see that in the superficial price liquidity stuff.
right,
But over time, it's that like, oh, it's a bubble. Oh, it's dead. Oh, it's a bubble. Oh, it's dead.
yeah,
As it goes up and up and up. I was
right,
telling my wife last night about ideas about longer term buys and expanding our long term holdings on stuff. And just as a comparison, I'm like, it seems. I mean, looking at the price today compared to just a year ago,
right,
and then that price compared to a year before that.
right,
So it's like we're having this conversation now about next year or 5 years from now. Imagine if we'd have done this a year ago
right,
or 2 years ago,
yeah,
we would be having a different conversation.
yeah, one hundred
And yet
percent,
here we are again looking at the price action, and it's like, oh, it's a bubble. Oh, it's dead. Oh, it's a bubble. Oh, it's dead. And the thing is, it's just I come at it from a different perspective because of my deep conviction about the fundamentals.
right,
Most other people, like people's, spouses or whatever, you're negotiating stuff on that kind of commitment, which one or the other party may not understand and feels like they just have to trust the other one to know it. And it
right.
takes time for people to really get there in that conviction. So now when you're single and you can do what the hell you want, you can just go all in and benefit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's me, brother. Well, I mean, if you don't mind, I'll go and kind of go through this chart a little bit here, real
Yeah.
quick. Um, but let's see if I got this up here. Yeah, so I got to share.
The Johnny mentions the international mafia
Yeah,
fund,
the
and that's just
international
it.
mafia.
Is
That is absolutely spot on.
the IMF, the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, all these actors. I think so. The El Salvador IMF collision, what it helps do is bring to light the strategy and the operations of the IMF in comparison to a new paradigm of Bitcoin, and it just shows it rips the mask off a little bit. It shows more clearly what constraints they put on countries, and people start to question like, that's weird, or what, they're so anti-Bitcoin. Now what the executive order did was the biggest biggest economy in the world is not fighting it. They're at some levels basically it's being embraced, so
We're
it's
bending the knee.
bend the knee to Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here I'll share this real quick, and then so this is the price chart, but I posted on X. I inverted the scale, and I said I would buy this chart. Just saying. And someone was pushing back on it, going, "I wouldn't buy that chart." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?" But for those who aren't aware, basic market structure is like a, a lower low and a lower high is typically indicative of things going bad, right? And you can kind of see that here. Like this is a high, that's a lower high, that's a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. That is basic market structure 101. And regardless of how much faith you put in the trading stuff, that is a well established sort of correlation to whether things are going up or down in price. I use these two little moving averages here. This is a SMA, a simple moving average, and an exponential moving average. And I use those as a cross. You can see them a little more clearly on a weekly chart. But when the exponential moving average crosses underneath the simple moving average, you go, oh, that is showing that the average price is tailing off faster than short-term trades, is the logic behind this. But if you look at this right now on an inverted chart, I can see very clearly here, if this were the actual Bitcoin chart, I would be buying this 100% because the average buys are going up faster, meaning that the general trend, there are more buys occurring than short-term sells are happening. And this RSI right here is another indicator that I use. When that bounces off that 50 and starts going up, you go, all right, we're definitely in buy territory. But the reason I posted that as an inverted scale is because the opposite holds true for right now. And this is a weekly chart. And I go, I would not buy this chart because this is very clearly going into a downtrend. And when I traded before, I would trade the daily chart. And what I can tell you right here is this is a very sustained downtrend. And there were people that were buying this going, hey, cheers if you bought the 78K dip. And I go, well, you might want to wait on that because that never cleared the RSI 50 down here. That never crossed over. And it nuked the very next day. I mean, like for all the price gains they had in that 2 days, it nuked right back. And it dropped again, came back a little bit, and now it's dropping again. So if you're looking at this from a technical trader standpoint, the next a logical line of support is around 68 to 70K, right? And that correlates with the last all-time high, basically. I mean, depending on how far back you want to go, right? But there's also a lot of price action that's bouncing around here, and it was bouncing off this. So this was forming a resistance line right here at that point. It's a very logical resistance line psychologically because that was the previous all-time high. Once it broke through that, we have now set a new all-time high, right? But this is going to provide a next logical place for resistance when the price comes up. So if you were just a brain dead, bone average trader Joe, you would look at this and go, well, I got a lower high, lower lows. The trend is going down. The next logical support line is this. If it hits this and bounces and starts going up, you go, okay, that's probably a good time to buy, especially if it crosses this 50 line here. But the next thing you're going to be looking for is it going to reject off this? And depending on what happens in the world, whether or not Europe decides to go through on their World War III plans, like they seem all hell bent on doing, you don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, no one can predict the future. But if I were going to predict some sort of future for this, I would say it would probably come close to a technical bounce here, or you could reasonably anticipate a technical bounce here. If it doesn't bounce and breaks through this and keeps going down, then the next level is, 40s and 50s. So all this to say, none of that stuff is impossible to happen. But I think the most likely thing is you're going to see price gravitate down towards this range and then probably start coming back up again. And whether it turns into the God Omega candle or not, I don't know. But right now, if you're looking to stack more sats, my thing is like, I'm just sitting on my hands right now. I'm saving some dry powder. When that thing reverses and goes around, I'll go, all right, cool. I'm going to buy right now. I'll tell people on Twitter, I'm going to buy right now. I know a lot of you guys are saying buy the dip at 77, but now I'm buying at 68 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to wait on those trading indicators to tell me when to buy. I don't sell anymore. I don't trade out of this stuff. I just keep it. If I get a buy at 68,000 and then it nukes to 50,000 the next day, I go, whatever, no big deal. But I know I just don't buy counter trend. I don't catch falling knives, to borrow a term from back in the trading days. And right now, buying right now, I go, you're just catching a falling knife. So why don't you wait until it bottoms, or why don't you wait until there's some technical indicators showing you that, hey, this might be a good time to buy? Doesn't mean it's 100%. Maybe it's a 60, 70% likelihood. But, I think it's always better to buy and then see the uptick rather than buy and watch it go down some. Psychologically, for me, I just go, I feel better. Even if it bounces 10 grand and then nukes the next day, I go, well, at least I got a 10 grand bump,
Yeah.
But,
and that is hard for me personally. I get psyched out trying to time the market at all. Not being as, versed in the charts like you are, but at times I'll get some dry powder stacked up. And man, it's like it's burning a hole in my pocket because it's not in Bitcoin.
yeah.
And so I start to get antsy about trying to time the market versus just time in the market. And so I'm susceptible to being like, you know what, my 80 IQ, I've got it. I tend to smash buy and just forget about it. But
Yeah.
then what I don't forget about it. I check the price and I'm like,
Right.
okay. But
Well, that's
still,
exactly it. Yeah.
um, and I do wonder if some broader effects, like say the executive order, or if we hear that some other large nation does something similar, or nations like you'd mentioned is like, what if we start seeing some other nation state adoption stuff? What Texas passed, at least in one side of their state,
In the
was
Senate.
it
Yeah.
Senate? Was it they passed a Bitcoin bill, and it's like, well, that's something too. Things like that, and maybe if other countries start, we may start to see people's perception of a low, or accumulation starts happening. We may start to see the effects of large green candles.
Yeah. Potentially.
I don't
And the
know.
thing is like what I know is, Bitcoin can move a great big deal in a day, right? But the average person buying Bitcoin is not a maxi, is my thesis
Right.
so far,
Yeah.
right? Most people that are dipping in and out of this treat it like a risk asset. They treat it like a trading game, and they're still trying to baboon their way through Bitcoin, right? So with that in mind, you go when people like there's a lot of people that saw that top at 109 and then saw the price rolling over and stuff. They're sellers. They become natural sellers because they go, "Oh, I just made a 30% gain in 3 weeks. Yay." And they can't see the forest for the trees, So they're but as long as that is the predominant mentality in this space, you're always going to see price action like this. You're always going to see people trying to time markets and trying to get in and out and trying to do, and never mind, now you've got a bunch of quants on Wall Street that are tinkering with this stuff using very, very sophisticated trading algorithms, and they're doing micro trades and they're doing all kinds of stuff to balance their books because they're trying to squeeze every little ounce out of this thing. So for me, as this lowly pleb down here, just kind of mucking along with, available information, I go, well, I found historically speaking that my little trading algorithm worked. Like I made money. I actually made money trading in shitcoins and stuff like that using this same trading algorithm. So what I do now, rather than try and time buys and sells, I just try and time buys and just try to make sure that my buys are as opportune as I can make them. Meaning I don't buy into weakness, I buy into strength. And I time those buys in such a way. Like back when it was 16,000, I got a smash buy. I've got the receipts to show 16,800 buy.
Yeah.
And at
Me
the
too.
time, I remember looking at it, and if you would have seen the sentiment around people, there were no shortage of voices going, Bitcoin's going to 12K, Bitcoin's done, Bitcoin's this, Bitcoin's that, and the FTX thing had just happened, and Celsius just blew up, and all these people were telling me what a lunatic I was, and I just went, yeah, but my algorithm says now is a good time to buy. I'm going to buy,
Hmm.
and sure as shit, that's probably the best Bitcoin buy I've ever had in my life because like to be able to look back on history and go, well, I was stacking Bitcoin at 16 grand while everyone else was scared and not wanting to, and a lot of those people didn't buy at 25 and they didn't buy at 30. And then, they're catching the tail end of the run because they're relying on sentiment and feelings and emotions. And I just go, well, if the averages are going the right way and, the structure looks right, I'm doing a buy. And
Hmm.
knock wood, so far that's worked out every single time. I can't fault my strategy because it's worked for me. So I'll probably stick with it
Yeah.
for the time being.
Um, yeah.
You're
And there's
spot on, Johnny. Yeah, trading for fiat gains. I can tell you from personal experience, I was spending 12 to 14 hours a day looking at charts, and it just, I mean, mentally exhausting and just an enormous waste of time and life. And it's so much easier now just to go, hey, this like once a month, I go, hey, this might be a good time to buy some Bitcoin. I'll add to my stack. And then the rest of the time, I'll just save whatever fiat gains I have and wait until the next time it's a good time to buy and stack some more sats. So it's certainly helped my mental space a lot. Sorry for interrupting,
yeah,
folks.
me too. Yeah, and there are a lot of early whales that never really became Bitcoin maxis per se. Some of them got into the shitcoinery that followed. Some of them are just sitting on a bunch, but just never kept on the fundamentals or the development of it, or maybe they get it, but they have so much they don't really care to sell Bitcoin here and there because they're living in a fiat world, but they're sitting on a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And they, what do they call them? Like bear whales. I think there are people out there like that, from years ago that are just sitting on a bunch and don't care about selling here and there because they're always like, oh, I'll always have some Bitcoin. But that's what I was describing, where I think it's moving into harder and harder, stronger hands,
Yeah.
and that floor steadily creeps up. So
Yeah.
it takes time.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, and as Johnny pointed out, I agree with you 100%, man. I'd rather die on this hill fighting for legitimate freedom and prosperity for everybody, rather than just sit around playing fiat games and hoping some ruler somewhere is going to make my life better.
Yeah, the
Like
fiat
Bitcoin's that
price.
vehicle.
Yeah, it's like the fiat price really just validates models and ideas about what's going on in a market. If you boil it down to the ethical fundamentals of money, for me, it's like all price aside or anything, it's like, do I want my future invested in fiat?
Right,
No, just
right,
categorically. Bitcoin is the ethical money to the extent that money's ethical. Um, all other fiat is just clearly leveraged criminally and otherwise,
right.
and by central powers, by banks, by governments. That's the whole system and game that I want to escape, and that I think true Bitcoin maxis understand as well. So
100%, man. Well, I'll
at
tell
a
you what, man.
fundamental
Like
level,
here's an analogy for you. If you had 20 acres that you owned outright, and a nice little cabin on it, and a little garden patch, and a couple of goats and some chickens and whatever it is you want to raise to eat and feed and whatever. If you had that little plot of land, would you care how much it's worth in fiat?
right?
You go,
Yeah,
what do I care? My ranch is worth $1 million, $1 billion, or $10. I don't care. It gives me everything I need, and no one can take this property from me. It's mine, right?
yeah,
Except with the difference between a ranch and Bitcoin is someone can come and take your ranch, but they can't come and take your Bitcoin. And that's kind of the way I look at Bitcoin. As I go, I own inviolable property. No one can take my property from me. It doesn't matter what it costs in fiat to get more of my property. I already own it. It's mine.
yeah,
You can't take it from me, period. But no one can take it from me. And that I think is a very underappreciated aspect of Bitcoin is like you own property that no one can steal. That's never been available to any human being on planet Earth ever in the history of mankind until 2009.
yep,
So with that in mind, I go, what do I care if it's, I'm sitting on that ranch to me. If I had a ranch with a nice little cabin, a little garden, and the goat patch and whatever it is you got out there, I go, that is invaluable to me. There is nothing you could pay me that would want me to separate from that property. It's
hmm,
perfect. It's exactly what I want, and that's what I always want it to be. So it doesn't matter how much it's worth in fiat. What I'm going to do, trade it in for a condo and a Range Rover or something like that would be insane, right? So I view
yeah,
Bitcoin the exact same way. I go, why would I ever trade this? That's insane. It's like giving up your most valuable property for something that some asshole can print out of thin air. So yeah,
yeah. Thinking back through history, thinking of like the concept of being able to have inviolable property rights. You think of like I remember seeing a documentary. It might have been a Ken Burns thing or something about like the Tennessee Valley Authority when they were going to build all this infrastructure and generate power and water control in the Tennessee Valley, River Valley, and all that. Or I think of the Columbia Gorge out here when they built all the dams, the Bonneville and the Dalles and the John Day and all these dams.
yeah,
It's not like the government was coming through and saying and like negotiating per se. It was more like, we're doing this,
yeah,
and what do you have? You got a sod hut and your chickens and goats, and like, we're going to give you $100,000, and people are like, no.
right,
And so like and it's like, what is this to you? You can go move here. How about $1 million? And now people sold out and whatever, but ultimately it boiled down to the fact like, hey, look, this area is flooding.
right.
It's going to happen. So we're doing it. This is what we're offering here. It was
For the
sort of like,
people.
like you're going to sign this treaty.
Yeah,
Whether you understand it or not, it's the water is going to rise. This sod hut of yours, or you have a mansion, it's underwater. Okay, period.
yeah,
We're coming in and doing that. Back in the day, it was like, well, okay, I guess I'll take the best price I can get and I'll build a new hut.
Right.
With Bitcoin, done. Nope. Cannot
Yep.
confiscate it. Cannot move me. Cannot do anything about it.
Right. Mind.
Um,
Exactly. And
it's like, well,
so,
hey, what if we offer you $1 billion? And it's like, no, sorry, my chickens are worth to me. You may not care or understand it. Doesn't matter. My chickens to me are worth more than $1 billion. This is my life. I'm not moving.
right. Exactly. And now all of us Bitcoin holders have a beautiful piece of real estate in cyberspace that no one can take. And
Yeah.
it's such a game changer, man. People just don't get it yet, but they will. I
Yep.
mean, they're starting to, and it's still in the fiat mindset about all this stuff. Oh, we're gonna have a reserve. It's gonna fix money. It's gonna do blah 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 blah. But it's all fiat thinking, right? But you don't understand that's the future of property. And as soon as you get that, and I think Saylor kind of picked up on that pretty quick. Like, this is digital Manhattan. This is digital. This is the most valuable property on earth, and you can own a piece of it right now for cheap. For something that some other asshole is making out of thin air, you can go buy the most valuable property ever created by man. So I say get on board, man. Like, hop on, get yourself some sats, own a little piece of digital property, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Well, and the very fact that there's like questions and pontification about just what the gold is in Fort Knox or what gold countries have, or all of that is also just kind of funny because we don't know. And then, or we could see the video live of glimmering metal. And there's always that question of like, okay, I guess with Bitcoin, it's known. And I just think nation states are going to start to realize that this, even just sitting on gold or trying to move gold or assay your gold or prove your proof of what is it, proof of wealth. Um,
Content, yeah.
yeah, all of that doesn't. You don't have to work that hard to prove your holdings, and you can just say, nope, we got it here. See it,
Right there on the
whatever.
chain. Yeah, exactly.
Why wouldn't nation states go, okay, so America's not calling the shots, BRICS isn't calling the shots, we don't have to like secure all this gold and how or prove it, or move it or sell it or do anything with Bitcoin. It's like the whole gold game, gold having its own value in the world, yet the overhead, the proof of everything about it is a weird game. And so with Bitcoin, it's just like, nope, easy,
Oh,
done.
gold is trust. Gold is 100%
Yeah.
trust. Unless you have a gold coin in your pocket that you've had assayed, it's a trust game, right?
Yep.
Bitcoin requires no trust. It's a zero trust egalitarian access network, right? So you don't have to ask permission to join the network. You don't have to ask permission to leave the network. You don't have to trust anybody to join the network. You don't have to trust anybody to leave the network. It's there, available for everybody, 24/7, 365, and it's backed by 360 exahash or whatever it is right now.
Yeah.
So that, like Johnny said, no property rights, no freedom. And right now, all of our property rights are on paper except for one, Bitcoin.
Yep.
And paper rights are only as good as the paper they're printed on, and all it takes is more guys with more guns than you have to come and take your property rights from you. But it doesn't matter how many guns you got, doesn't matter how many nukes you got, doesn't matter anything. Come and take my property. Good luck. I mean, I can choose to give it up. Like Ross Ulbricht chose to give up his Bitcoin. He didn't have to give up his Bitcoin. He was probably facing some pretty stark, potential by not giving up his Bitcoin.
Right.
But that said, he could have held out. He could have just said, GFY, man, good luck. I ain't doing it. You
Yeah.
can throw me in prison for the rest of you can throw me in a deep, dark hole. I'm never giving you my Bitcoin,
Yeah.
And if he had a MicroSeed, he could have just given him a little bit of his Bitcoin and said, that's all I got.
Exactly. Yeah. Here, take this one.
Yeah.
Take these ones.
Yeah. I got the
I can
titanium
see
one shoved up my ass right now. I
the
carried
gun.
this uncomfortable lunk of metal in my ass for 15 years, and now it's yours.
This watch.
Yeah, exactly.
For 15 years, I held this
Ooh,
washer
I'm
in
gonna
my
make
ass
a
in
video of
prison.
that. I'm gonna make a video of Chris Walken saying that, except this washer
This
kept
washer,
in my
this
ass.
washer I
And I'm gonna
kept
hold up
through prison.
in my
Um,
ass, and now
but
it's
I can see
yours.
the president's got his nuclear football or his codes or whatever. I think the president's going to have a washer around his neck of this U.S. Bitcoin codes.
Yeah,
He'll go to sleep at night with peace of mind, knowing that the U.S.
yeah,
Bitcoin reserve keys are around his neck.
yeah. Hell yeah. Well, hell, let's put all the nuclear codes on a MicroSeed.
Put the nuclear codes on that. Yeah.
Yeah, titanium washer. Go. Hey, where'd that washer go? Oh shit.
Yeah, we need this key, and you open this box, and you turn this switch, and like, oh, the battery died. Uh
Yeah.
oh.
Right. Or you just got the president's got it sewn into his, bulletproof suit or whatever he's got. Hell yeah, brother. All right, man. Well,
Cool. Well,
hey, look, we got spam from Twitch.
Twitch spam.
Smash
That's fun.
that cheap viewers on Streamboo. You
Stream boo.
fucking Twitch, man.
I'll
Come
get right
on.
on it. Twitch always
Smash that
follows
guy.
us.
Drop
So
the
I'm going to
ban
be
hammer. Drop the ban hammer, Fritz.
ban. Oh, I've never done that before. Boom.
Try it. Let's practice ban hammering right now.
I can pin him.
Don't pin him.
Oops, I pinned him.
Why'd you pin him for?
How do I?
You
How
don't,
do
you
I
don't advertise the bot. You want to
hammer ban?
Yeah.
Hammer ban him.
Give him the bitchin' hammer ban.
I don't know how to do that. Well,
All right, we'll figure
anyway.
that out for next time.
Well, I'll be shilling. I'm going to be shilling. I'm going to be online. I'm going to make some videos. If you don't mind, I'm just going to be talking this up because I'm playing with it right now. It's my current new toy.
Awesome, dude. I'd be happy. Thank you, sir. I appreciate
And
it.
if you post videos and stuff, I'd be sharing.
All right, well, I'm going to post one probably as soon as we hang up here. I'm going to post my
We'll aim
first
for
video and see if anyone even watches.
Bitcoin Vegas, and we'll have our 21E15.
Oh, yeah, I got to reach out to those people and see what it takes to get a booth set up.
Yeah, the box I got came in
Full of tape.
nice and
Tons and tons of
solid.
tape.
21E15 came in nice, delivered quick.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Fritz, as always. Johnny,
Yep.
it's always great to see you, sir. And thank you for everyone who's joined us today. And we'll see you again next Saturday.
Next time. Bye, folks.
Later.